That's a portfolio.
Sharon Oba, who is in the studio this morning to talk about the most anticipated, most talked about MCC Compact, $480 million, which is aimed at transforming the country's infrastructure and development, mostly in terms of energy. And he's here this morning to talk on the same. At some point in time, you were responding to a question in regards to government's support in this.
Opposition support.
Government support generally in this this plus that we've just received as a country.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I think the compact has a value. Government has made a widow's mite contribution into that value, because the US government's given $480 million, we're giving about $14 million. We put it into that implementation structure that they have. It's basically to show our commitment and to show that, yes, we want to get there. We do not have the resources, obviously, this level of resources, but we want to be clear that the government of Sierra Leone has a significant stake in this. This is something that's important to us. This is why President Bio has worked on this from day zero. From day one, he was working on this. He believes in the reforms that he needed to make, the direction that he needed to take this country so that we can qualify not just for the MCC, because, again, it's important for people to know this. The MCC will open floodgates of other investments for us. Other investors are going to look at this and say, this is a country that we want to go to. First, we needed to lay the foundation. The hard, difficult work that President Bio has had to do in this country is to pick up any sector you look at. He had to lay the foundation. It was basically, there was barely anything. Take education, right? He needed to come and lay the foundation. Technology and innovation. We did not even have a ministry or a whole system that was dedicated to this until he came. He's been laying that foundation. On public information reforms and things like that, he's laying the foundation. On civic education, bringing it back and restoring that, he's laid the solid foundation. On women's empowerment in public life, President Bio has come and really set up the building blocks for us to do that. On social policy reforms, we were stuck with archaic laws. The other day we were discussing this. You can take a look at the TRC recommendations. Take a look. Look at the list of all the things the TRC recommended, including, by the way, this conversation we're having about an electoral system that's preferable, the PR system that we want to go with. All of those are products of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendation. So it tells you that President Bio was there. He fought in that war. He understands deeply. He helped to move the country from war, from one-party military rule to democracy. And he knows that for us to continue as a democratic state, we need to continue to respond to the recommendations of the TRC to put those building blocks in place. And that these are the benefits we are beginning to see with MCC coming back to us.
As a citizen, I must commend the president for a job well done with this. And I believe that's one of the key aspects of this $480 million is to address the issue of electricity. Now, the major concern that I believe will be in the mouths of every Sierra Leonean is whether or not there's going to be an increase, in tariff as per post-implementation, or will there going to be a decrease in
electricity tariffs?
Yeah.
In fact, the point of this investment is to ensure that we have reliable, accessible electricity for everyone. So as soon as you're talking about accessible now, you're talking about costs. The costs have to go down, because we're not going to be having expensive solutions like we currently have. We're not going to be having, the cost is a product of, it's not like government is trying to charge its citizens. No, governments would prefer, if we have the means and the resources, to give you electricity for free. But that will not be a sustainable solution. That's part of what they have looked at. How do they make this sustainable? How do they make EDSA more efficient? In fact, this is part of what is going to come out of this process. How can we make it a functional institution that is more efficient? If they sell lights, they collect enough money. Because right now, the state of Sierra Leone, you and I, are subsidizing significant amounts of resources because of wastage, because of the inability of EDSA to collect, because of corruption, all of those issues. This investments properly executed is going to help us to deal with those issues. And that would mean a reduction in terms of costs, not an increase.
Still with the issue of sustainability, we still see in rural urban communities, they still struggle with electricity. There was some point in time, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I went to one of the villages behind Kenema, and I did a story around electricity, and it may interest you to know that those people in that particular town have been living with little or no electricity for many years. I know that there have been some amount of improvements, but how will this tackle all of those issues in rural urban communities?
In fact, you're hitting the nail right on the head. This is the heart of it. Electricity, President Bio has said, is a rights issue. We want to make sure that more and more Sierra Leoneans, most Sierra Leoneans, irrespective of where you live, you must get on the grid. We must find different solutions for you. That's why when President Bio came to power, he met the electricity access across the country about, 15% or less in terms of what the access was. And now, as we sit here, without the MCC investment, he has doubled that, easily. He's doubled that, more than doubled that. He's made sure that villages like where my mom comes from, my maternal home, Jimmy Bagbo, had never seen lights before, but now we are connected to the grid. And through one of the lines, we have electricity access. You've seen the reforms that Dr. Kanda Yomkela and the rest of the energy team, Deputy Minister Noni and others, have been putting in place. In fact, it started from when Alhaji Kanja Sise was minister. Mm-hmm. There was President Bio's obsession with turning light on across the country, using different kinds of innovative solutions, solar and all of that. So the ambition is for us exactly, and that's why sometimes when people criticize, EDSA, light not there, because we always think about the capital city. Because when you live in the city, you think the world revolves around you, and now you know more and all. And this is what we keep saying. Mm-hmm. We need to think about this country as one. And those people that you met in Kenema, they are citizens too.
Yeah, absolutely.
They care just as much. Their kids deserve to have access to light. They deserve to have access to all the basic amenities that electricity gives you. Even businesses that opens up for you because you have electricity. And I can assure you, this is what this investment is about.
Mr. Minister, let's go back to, the issue of electricity has been a long-standing conversation. Year in and year out, we've been discussing about that. Let's go back and look at the history a little bit. There was Bumbuna 1 and Bumbuna 2, and many people will say all of those international supports have failed with regard to Bumbuna 1 and Bumbuna 2. What will make this one different?
I don't think it would be a fair characterization to say that these investments have failed. They have not failed. We're where we are today. I just mentioned the significant expansion from 13-14% of energy access across the country to over 30% of energy access. That's not failure. It's not been what we want it to be in terms of the levels. What will make this different is, first of all, the level of resources is huge.
So I take back my words.
Yes.
Instead of failure, not being sustainable.
Exactly. So yes. But that's what we're building on now, right? So we're taking it to the next level as a country, and that's why when we had the opportunity to apply for MCC as a country, we looked at different sectors that this money. So some countries, their MCC money is going to different things. We wanted to solve this foundational problem, electricity, because it affects everything. As I said, businesses, your mobile phones, everything. You require access to electricity to get that. And so we made I think I always like to say President Bio is a big gambler. As in, not in the sense of the immoral gambling, but he makes a bet. He made a bet on education. He said, this is the one thing that will transform us. He made a bet now on feeding our country. And on this program, he's been consistent in his focus on electricity, saying that is what we need as well to help us to get to, he likes to talk about the fourth industrial revolution. How do we move from where we are as a non-industrialized country to being a leader in the new industrial revolution? And I can assure you that you require energy. It's a foundational investment for you to get to where you need to get.
There has been a lot of talks around the MCC Compact. I could recall at some point in time we did hosted the American ambassador to Sierra Leone, Brian Hunt, who says that the MCC's contingent on the tripartite recommendations, some of the pointers in the tripartite recommendations, because it seemed all-embracing. A couple of days ago, we did hosted one of the flag bearer aspirants for the APC party, Dr. Kaifala Mara, who seemed extremely worried about the implementation of the tripartite recommendations. And he did mention that it's like the government isn't taking their pointers seriously. And if same is not done, because the recommendations are not something that are justiciable in court, you cannot take government to court if they fail, because there are no provisions to same. They will resort to something else. Has government been magnanimous in its implementation of those recommendations, say particularly so on the request of the opposition APC?
I think, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Mara. We worked together when he was co-chair of the committee that was looking at this, taking things forward. I remember chairing a press event that he was at alongside the co-chair on the government side at the time was Dr. Gaima. And I remember at the end of that conversation, I called him out. I called them all out. I said, it's really important that what you say in private is consistent with what you say in public. It's really important that we, this is the future of our country at stake. Anybody who looks at the agreement of national unity and all the provisions of that agreement will tell you that the government of Sierra Leone has been consistent in the implementation. Even when we removed the influence, it seemed like the factor of the international institutions, the pressure that they were putting on the entire process. Even when those were removed, President Bio's government has been consistent. Now, if you take that agreement, you're not hearing APC parliamentarians complain about their pay anymore, because President Bio has authorized that they pay their backlog. That's part of what was in the agreement. Going to cabinet with it, it's done. Reforms on the constitution, done. Political prisoners, done. Every single one of them, we have made consistent, principled progress. Now, the point of an agreement and the point of having, again, even three sides is you're not going to agree on every letter of the word. But I think it will be incorrect for anybody to come and say government is not taking it seriously. Again, this very fact that we're having a conversation about MCC is because the government has been keeping our own side of the bargain. That is why we continue to be a respectable partner and ally of development partners, trade partners, investment opportunities. That's why we're seeing the progress that we're seeing. So I know Dr. Mara is running for president, and so when you're running for president, you've got to, sometimes you have to, the Americans call it red meat. You've got to give red meat to the base. But I think when it comes to the substance, it's very clear that President Bio is a man who keeps his words.
We've got tons of messages, but before we get to our Facebook page to read out some of those messages, now, I keep asking my questions surrounding the interest of ordinary citizens. Now, public perception is very much important and often sees these big governments win as a top-down. Will there be any sort of civic education strategies are in place to ensure the public get to understand, where this $480 million will be, invested?
It's a great question. I'm really happy you're asking that. This is not going to be behind closed doors, and as you know, that since President Bio gave me the great honor of serving as Minister of Information and Civic Education, we have been pushing to do more proactive government engagements, more proactive civic education, ensuring that governance is not seen as something that happens just behind the veil. In fact, one of the things we're going to start doing, you'll be very happy to know, is in this month or the next one, every week now, the Ministry of Information will give you a summary of all cabinet's conclusions, so the public will know this. We're President Bio has charged us to be, again, freedom of information. We want to continue to go up. We want people to have access to information. So MCC is about accountability. They will have a whole infrastructure there. We will complement them from the government side, from the Ministry of Information, to ensure that citizens are fully aware and they are part of the efforts to hold the whole process accountable, to keep them on their toes, because this is our lives. Huh? This is our children's lives. This is the future of the country that's at stake. We have to make sure that this program
Mr. Minister, is it safe to ask that if you can kindly confirm the commencement or execution or completion of this MCC fund?
Well, I think the U.S. government also tweeted that the embassy here tweeted, in fact, that they are indeed, the program is resumed, because what happened was it was suspended pending review. At the end of that review, as I said, there were 25 countries, 17 have been cut, 12 remain, 5 are in Africa, 1 is Sierra Leone, and that's the only one that's unmodified.
Okay.
We've had a couple of messages. We'll see ways to go through just a few of them, all of them. There's a barrage of messages anyway. First off is from Swissman, who says, actually the president is doing a good job. We're now seeing regular electricity, lots of solar panels in the country, traffic lights, quality medical facility, and lots of employment, rapid infrastructural development, and the most successful progress of President Bio is the food security. I like that. I like to see all of these developments that President Bio has done for his people. I believe President Bio will go. This one is unclear. So it's unclear.
Okay, this is from Mark 10, and he says, Mr. Minister, I'm happy you held a courtesy engagement with the Chinese ambassador to Sierra Leone following the signing of a $5 million MOU. This partnership is a strategic milestone in fulfilling President Bio's vision for digital transformation and industrial growth. This groundbreaking deal will help us bring Sierra Leone's printing industry into the 21st century, and that's from Mark 10.
Mosdi laughs and says, Mr. Minister, please enlighten us. Who are the legitimate leaders and illegitimate leaders of the APC? Now, I am very curious.
And again, from Mark 10, I hope the tripartite secretariat are aware of the seriousness of the work ahead. It's high time the secretariat develop and finalize the tools that will guide the nation consultations. Ultimately, it is the people of Sierra Leone who will decide which electoral system will be used.
Michael Coker says the MCC Compact money does not go directly to the government. There is an implementation committee who is responsible to oversee the projects.
And from Thomas Rogers, he says, now that the MCC fund has been approved for Sierra Leone, many citizens are eager to understand how this significant financial support will translate into tangible benefits for the ordinary Sierra Leonean. Could you kindly elaborate on how the government intends to ensure that the implementation of MCC-funded projects directly improves the lives of everyday people, particularly in terms of access to reliable electricity, clean water, job creation, and institutional transparency?
Nabil Ibrahim Senesi says Sierra Leone has long-term electricity issues which are unsustainable and deeply affect citizens. What assurance can the government provide for sustainable electricity after the MCC fund implementation of $480 million?
And Mosdi again, Mr. Minister, can you please assure the public that if and when this funding is finalized, the government will absolutely have no influence over the successful companies that will carry out this very important project?
Honorable Minister, this one from Thomas Rogers says, Honorable Minister, considering Sierra Leone's previous participation in the MCC threshold program and the ongoing aspirations to qualify for a full compact, could you kindly outline the consent rate measures the government is undertaking to improve performance of the MCC scorecard, particularly in the critical areas of control of corruption, democratic governance, and the rule of law, to enhance eligibility for the full MCC compact funding?
And this is from Payamba, DMK. He's pleading with the minister to, help them from Mile 91 that they have been suffering with electricity challenges, that they should consider them.
Nabi Ibrahim Sensi says, thank you to the Syrian government for securing approval for the long-awaited MCC funding. While the substantial amount of $480 million is significant, it is essential to consider the strategies the government plans to implement to effectively utilize the funds for its intended purposes. Additionally, it's important to focus on establishing effective monitoring systems to prevent the creation of white elephant projects.
Please go ahead, I'm a little bit challenged.
Payamba says, from mile 91 to Freetown, just 91 miles, yet still we are suffering to get light. Please, Mr. Minister, this time around, remember us. We are suffering in that, a second district headquarters in Tonkol in the district. Thank you, sir. A lot of messages, lots and lots of messages.
Okay. I can quickly take this one. Mohammed El Jallo says, good morning, AYV. Congratulations to us as a nation for this good news. Talking about access to electricity in Sierra Leone is something which we must take with all seriousness. In that light, I have some questions for the minister. Thank you very much. I see a list of questions here.
Oh, wow.
One, what is the guarantee that MCC will not be unsuccessful like other investments in the energy sector? What are the plans on practical implementation of this project? Third, how are we as citizens going to get information about the implementation process?
John?
Yes.
Well, last for mine is thank you. This one is from Joseph Sam. He says, thanks to the minister for elaborating on the MCC funds use. Congratulations to Sierra Leone. I think it's just a commendation.
Yes.
So, Minister, you can respond.
Thank you. Also, I need to say, I did say I needed to leave before 9 because I have an important meeting at 9. So I have to leave soon. But let me thank the citizens for such insightful questions. I think some of the questions you had already asked.
Yeah.
I think what the questions demonstrate are two important things. A, Sierra Leoneans are pleased, are proud. And B, Sierra Leoneans want to know how will this be spent for our collective benefit, that they understand what is happening, that there's fidelity to what is planned, and that it will benefit all of us. On those questions, I can assure the people of this country that there will be tangible benefits, that this is a program. Again, the reason why after careful scrutiny, the United States government did not modify our only program is because it has been done with rigor. You know, we want to commend the Sierra Leoneans who work in our MCC office here, Madam Inde Kuruma and the rest of her team, the Honorable Vice President who supervised that team. They have done an outstanding job, and I think they all deserve our collective commendation. President Bill has been giving them those flowers as well. I think there were certain, so on those kind of, you know, somebody said, how do we enhance eligibility? We'll continue to pass. We're not seeking to be eligible anymore. The program is now coming into full force. So we're now in the implementation phase. We've gone through every single stage. By the way, people don't realize this. It's already gone to our cabinet. It's gone to our parliament. It's been signed. It's been approved. It's the US government that suspended it. We're only celebrating now because after their review, Sierra Leone is still in the game. Somebody asked who's legitimate opposition. Was an interesting question. What I meant were the elected and known opposition figures. So, for example, their leaders in parliament, their leaders in the executive. It's very different from the rhetoric of some of, again, the activists that you find online who are always condemning our country, who are always seeking to bring doom on the rest of us. So that's the difference I was making, that there's a legitimate, established opposition, the leadership of the opposition on this issue. For the most part, I mean, there are some exceptions, but for the most part have been with us. So I think that I hear the concern of the gentleman from Mile 91. I will convey that to you know, the chairman and the team in the energy sector. I'm sure that they have a major plan that's look into all of these areas. Mile 91, yes, he's right, it's a very important access points for our country. But again, as I've said, President Bill's vision is that every town is lit, everybody has access to energy, has access to power, has access to technology, has access to the tools that can make you thrive in this 21st century. And it starts with education, it builds onto health, agriculture, and obviously energy and electricity. So those are all parts of the package that this president has been doggedly committed to. He has remained steadfast despite all the waves. And he has said, judge him at the end. And I'm sure the people of Sierra Leone, when it comes to energy, when his record will be put out there, you will know that this is a man who, on his own without MCC, as I said, moved us from about 13, 14, 15% access to doubling that. And now he has a chance to significantly transform that under his leadership. This is something that he will continue to do, inshallah.
All right, thank you very much, Minister Cheron Obara, who happens to be the Minister of Information and Civic Education. Thanks for being here this morning and taking your time to enlighten the people what the MCC compact, I mean the $480 million is all about and how it will be invested or implemented, you know, with regards to the energy sector. We'll go for a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll delve into the second conversation.